You're watching Monty TV. I'm Jackie Karsh, sitting down now with Robert Lee. He's the founder and CEO at industrial cybersecurity company Dragos. Thank you so much for sitting down with us, Robert.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Investors a little bit ago thought this was not an investable idea. Why and what has changed since they said that? They were wrong.
Yeah, they were wrong. So I think when you think of industrial, a lot of people think of electric utilities, they think of oil and gas sites, they think kind of a smaller market. And they also, biggest thing is they think of a long sales cycle. So if you have a 18 to 24 month sales cycle, like you really can't invest in that market and move it quickly enough with the resources that a startup has. My perception of what was going on though is a lot of folks were taking enterprise security strategies and technology and trying to just force them into industrial, and people weren't buying it. Thus the big, sort of sales cycle problem. When we came on the scene, we were seeing more of like 6-month sales cycles, which are extremely investable. And the other aspect is industrial is effectively the entire world. Like everything is an industrial site. You have control systems in your elevator. You have Major League Baseball stadiums running with HVAC systems and water utility on site. So it's shifted now where the narrative is, holy crap, everything's industrial, and you can actually move this market, which is, again, sort of forced everybody to take a second look at it.
What's the unique challenge to securing an industrial industry versus an electoral industry or a banking institution?
Yeah, the mission is fundamentally different of those sites. And so they might still have Windows systems. Oftentimes they do have purpose-built kind of arcane-like technology, but it really isn't about the technology. That's a barrier, but you could overcome that. It is really about the physics of it. So imagine enterprise security plus physics with an entire different mission. You're going to get different outcomes, and the threats that we see to those infrastructure sites are completely different. As an example, you target a bank, you might steal a bunch of money. We had a threat target a petrochemical company last year that tried to kill people at that site by compromising safety systems.
Well, you worked for the NSA. How has that colored your perspective on cybersecurity?
A very threat-driven kind of approach from it. So if you want to talk about some of the cool technologies coming out, I think Silicon Valley and kind of California has done that very, very well over the years. When you want to talk about where people have experience in encryption and data science and threats, like you're now talking more East Coast and intelligence agencies. And so where you're considered experienced in the cybersecurity field, if you go through an APT attack, if you go through like a state breaking into your company and you go through that, like that's a big deal. At the NSA, you would go through dealing with that once a week. And so the tempo is just so different that a lot of the stuff is really kind of common sense in how you would address it, being based off of that expertise.
I'm going to hope that you're not too paranoid then.
No, actually, I care less about it all. They're like personal security, they're like, it's all gone. You know what I mean?
There's no hope?
It's not. So I think defense is doable for like organizations, but your personal privacy and stuff, that's gone. Like that.
Seriously?
Yeah,
like
seriously.
Everything?
Yeah, everything.
When it comes to infrastructure, is it the same actor? Is it the same, maybe Russian government, Chinese, guys, or is it, someone sitting in their basement in the U.S.?
Yeah. At this time, it's exclusively states. The level of effort and resources to go after a gas turbine is not to the point that a criminal actor could have success. That may change in the future, and actually I'm worried that it will. I think we'll hit an inflection point, which would be bad. But for now, it's of the states. But even when we say like the Russian government, it's like, okay, they have what, 6
By the way,
different...
I don't want them to come after me, so it could be anyone.
It's usually Russian. No, it's fine. But anyways, let's say it's, and by the way, they have the same conversations about us, so we're breaking in as well.
Right.
So it's not like...
No, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, everybody's bad on this, by the way. And so when you look at like the Russian government or the US government, we have, 16 different intelligence agencies that could be involved in something like that. And then inside of that, you have different teams and structures. So even though it might be the Russian government that's going after the same companies and now they're going to infrastructure, the people and the teams inside of that are so different that the ways they're doing the attacks and how they're achieving success are so different that you need a different approach to actually defend those environments.
Speaking of the government, you have a partnership with the U.S. Department of Energy. Can you tell me about that?
So what we did is we built a program called Neighborhood Keeper. And this idea of Neighborhood Keeper is, let's take a slimmed down version of our technology that's really cheap now, to get it out to like cooperatives and municipalities and local infrastructure sites that don't have the resources to do all this on their own. And then with all that deployed, how can we keep all of their data on site so we don't have the data privacy issue, but still glean insights about the threats so we can tell everyone in the community what's going on in these networks that we've never had access to before. And it started. So we just started it on our own. We started doing it. It took off really, really well. The community very much got behind it because all of your infrastructure community generally cares about their communities. Like they live and work in the communities they serve. And then the Department of Energy was like, "This is amazing. How can we support it?" And so they gave us a grant, which is pretty awesome. Where it's still our program, but they're just supporting it. And so they threw a couple million at it to subsidize some of the players. But the main thing is the Department of Energy stamp on it, of this is now approved, kind of lets it take off for the entirety of the U.S. industry. And then it's not even bound to the U.S. We're already doing the same thing in Australia and a couple other places. And so it's this idea of getting almost a connective tissue between all of your world's infrastructures, so that if somebody hacks a Singaporean electric site, the logistics site in the U.S. knows how to defend against it. So it's to me, it's increasing the pain of the adversary in terms of them being successful.